Welcome to the podcast. Today my guest is Jason Koon. Jason plays poker at the highest stakes. He is a team party poker pro and he's ranked number 8 on the all-time money list. And I'm very, very happy that you took the time to be on the podcast. Thank you very much, Jason.
Thanks for having me.
So in the beginning, this time I want to start the podcast a little bit different. So Jason, I'm gonna read you 5 statements about yourself and you can tell me if they're true or false.
Okay.
I am ranked number 8 on the all-time money list. My friends Stan Smith and Isaac Hexton are ranked 10 and 13. Sometimes I tease them because they're ranked lower.
Never, no.
I enjoy blogging. One day I will write a book about my life.
Unlikely, I think. I do enjoy blogging, but probably unlikely that I write a book.
In 3 years, I've spent less time on poker than I'm doing now.
In 3 years from now?
Yes.
True.
When I'm retired from poker, you won't see me in the casino anymore.
Not true. I really enjoy playing. I think a couple times here and there I'll pop in and play a tournament or something.
6-5 suited is not my favorite poker hand.
6-5 of hearts is definitely one of my favorite poker hands. Yeah, my favorite poker hand's aces. So true. You said not my favorite poker hand, right?
Not your favorite poker hand.
Yeah, true.
Okay, 5 statements. So, Jason, you're very notorious for working hard. How do you keep the pace up?
I ask myself that all the time, man. I feel tired all the time, but I also feel great joy and fulfillment in what I'm doing. And I always ask myself and reevaluate, should I keep doing this? Is this the right direction? And as of today, I still feel like this is the right direction for me to go. So it's just something where you go day by day, hour by hour, and wake up and accomplish little things, and little things become big things after a while.
What's your motivation for keeping the pace?
My motivation it stems from a deep love for the game. To begin with, I really, really enjoy playing. I love learning about the game. I think it's fascinating, and I'm always overwhelmed with how intelligent and talented the people are in poker. So I just feel privileged to be surrounded by sharp people that push me to get better. So yeah, that's just kind of where my true motivation stems from, is just a general love for waking up and doing what I do.
Next week there's the Triton Poker Series. So how does a day look like in your life when you're at home?
When I'm at home, it's very different than when I'm at the poker tournaments. I have a pretty strict routine of what I eat, of meditation, of taking care of my mental game. I have a lot of work, prerequisite work that other people may not require. So I have to do a lot of mental work. And on top of that, I love to train in the gym. I love to power lift, and also lots of studying, a lot more studying than playing poker, especially. I spend about half of my time in the United States now, just because online is kind of not what it used to be, and it's smaller. And so a lot more studying for me here, since there's no action on the internet.
How much time do you spend on poker a day when you're home?
It really varies. I wake up and I'll generally get a walk in and meditate, and then I always start my day with something poker related. and then it kind of funnels into however much time that takes to accomplish. So some days can be short, but I'm not really a person who takes days off. Like, I don't like have a weekend or anything. I barely ever even know what day of the week it is. But I also don't work like insanely long days of studying. So I'll generally do maybe like between 3 to 7 hours of poker work that isn't playing a day, and I just do it every single day. I never take a day off. I always do something.
What's your routine when you go to a tournament? What's your routine?
Tournament routines are very intense. I think that a lot of your value comes from the way that you're not only prepared for the tournament, but the way that you execute when you're there, when you're not on the felt. So I'm very low carb diet whenever I play poker. And I also don't train hard. I don't lift heavy weights whenever I play poker. I'll do like, I bring a skip rope and a foam roller and an acupressure pad with me to stops. And I'll skip rope whenever I wake up and do like push-ups and random stuff in my room and do light workouts at the gym. But I'm never pushing myself there, and I'm carb restricted because my brain just works better whenever I'm not eating a bunch of carbs. So I'm just like a bunch of fat and meat and yeah, and then I just play. And I mean, it just never stops for me. It's kind of the exact opposite of my life whenever I'm not playing at poker stops, because for me, it's really difficult since I've transitioned into covering a bunch of cash games, being, say, an ambassador for Triton, I have a responsibility to show up and play these poker tournaments. But it's pretty tough sometimes because I'll bag up or bust the tournament and then go play a cash game until they want to quit. And the etiquette in Asia is just very different. Like, if you're one of the pros, they know they're playing with a pro and they expect you to play with them for as long as they want to play. So their trips are really, really excruciating and difficult, but I enjoy the challenge.
When you're in Montenegro, will you play for more than 36 hours?
No, I even have a line. I've pissed a couple of people off. I've left some really good games before about 24 hours in, because I'm just like, guys, I'm just doing a bunch of damage to myself and I got to get out of here. I'm not one of these guys that's like takes pride in pushing myself to the point where I can't hold my head up anymore. If I play a session longer than 18 hours, it really starts to hit me hard. And if it's like the end of the trip and say one guy is kind of, you're in the dream game and it's a game that you only get to play in once or twice a year, then I'll hammer all the caffeine and I'll go until I can't go anymore. But a trip like that's going to be 3 weeks long, 2.5, 3 weeks long, and there's going to be a lot of action. So once I hit the point of physical exhaustion and I think I'm hurting myself and it's going to take me a couple days to recover, I'll get out of there.
What's the area you improved the most on in the last year?
Poker related or life related, or both?
First, poker related.
Poker related, definitely short deck. I have been working extremely, extremely hard because I think that my true love is No Limit Hold'em. I love full deck No Limit Hold'em. It's an amazing game. But for my opportunities and where I stand right now in my poker career, I think there's a lot more money for me to be very good at short deck, just because it's still early in the development of the game. And the top NL tournament specialists in the world are incredibly, incredibly good. And I still want to push myself to be able to compete at the highest levels in No Limit Hold'em, but the return just isn't that high, even if you have all of yourself in these giant high rollers, which almost no one does. But, if you have massive pieces of yourself, which most of the guys that are in their 30s do, your return on investment in a year just isn't that high, and it's crazy variance. So the win rates are much bigger for me in short deck, and a lot of my time has just been there for the last year, just trying to improve.
Are more than 50% of the cash games hand you play in short deck?
This year, in the last 6 months, yes. In the last 12 months, no.
Okay, so it's growing.
It's growing, yeah.
So you're very well known for working hard. Who do you think are the hardest workers in poker at the moment?
Well, we all have our little bubbles, right? So I know from within the people that I know who is the hardest working, who some of the best players are. But I think it's, if you watch the podcast with a lot of the groups, they almost always have a bias to say someone that they're close with is the best player in the world, including myself. You know, I have biases to say that, you know, Ben 86 is the best PLO player because he's my best friend. And on top of that, he's a fucking incredible PLO player. And he would get my vote for the hardest worker. He puts me to shame in his capacity to be able to just study outputs for a day straight. Whereas the screen just starts becoming mushy to me after 3 or 4 hours. But there are so many great players out there. And I think it's important to kind of zoom out and realize, like, okay, we have this little echo chamber of really talented, smart people that we all work with, but there's probably another group of guys out there that are also working really, really hard, that are also great players that I just don't know that well or as well. So in my group of players, the hardest workers of all my friends, I would have to give it to Ben 86 and also Stephen Chidwick, who I'm very good buddies with, and he's an incredibly talented, hardworking, motivated guy.
Can you make an honorable mention for someone outside your group which work ethic you respect?
Yes. I respect a ton of people outside of my group, by the way. I think that a lot of these like legendary PLO players who I don't know at all seem like remarkable, like very sweet. You know, I've never seen the guy, I've never met the guy, but you just know the guy's got to be putting in the work, because he just will show up and play anyone. And then, like, I just log into Stars and he's playing 8-game and battling the best players heads up. So a guy like him, also, I wouldn't call Victor Bong necessarily hardworking, but my God, the guy is playing online all day, every day, covering every game, playing the biggest games, playing PLO and tournaments. So that's work. It's not like off the table work, but what a legend, you know, to be able to just play that way for the last decade. And just, you know, he's basically hit the Supernova Elite equivalent on all the poker sites every year for a decade straight. So those are two. Yeah, just a freak.
Do you see when someone slacks off? Do you have a feeling for that?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's very apparent in tournaments, because tournaments are weird. They're not as steady as cash. So what you'll often see is, like, a person is playing a lot, they bang off a couple tournaments, they're pretty pumped up, and I don't know if it's because of a lack of love for the game. Maybe they just don't really. Maybe they were playing the game as a means to an end, and then, like, they got the money, but they're still kind of in the habit of playing poker tournaments. So they're showing up like, well, I'm here, but I don't really give a shit anymore, because they hit their goal almost, you know. So you see that kind of slacking off, where it's not like necessarily like an arrogance because they've won a lot. I think they're just not motivated to work, because they were motivated because they needed the money or wanted the money. And then once they got the money, they weren't as motivated. So you see that kind of slacking off happening sometimes. And it is different. I mean, it's a lot easier to be motivated when you're like, man, I only got so many years of this and I need to make a living. And, you know, so you work really hard when you feel that way. But once you're like, okay, what do I do now? I have the money that I need. It's a different kind of motivation.
I always felt that, at least back in the day, cash game players and tournament players are a different people type. So I always felt the cash game players are way more focused, and the tournament players are more like relaxed. And because I felt in cash game, you get the amount of work you put in and the reward are more connected. Like shorter time frame. So that's why I felt like it's the cash. And I always felt that way.
Yeah, it's a consistent kind of chip away. And also in cash games, I mean, maybe there's the spot where once in a blue moon you take a big shot in a crazy game and you know, say you're young and you double your net worth or triple your net worth. That might happen like once in a lifetime in a cash game, but that happens all the time in poker tournaments. You know, there'll be a guy who's got 200,000 to his name and wins the WSOP main event, or like wins like a 10K WPT for $2 million, you know? So there'll be these guys that are like, they show up, they have 50K and now they have $3 million and they're like, what do I do now? You know, that never happens in cash games. Cash games are, you add, you know, 1%, half a percent, whatever, here and there. So yeah, it's just a slower and lower time preference kind of approach. Like cash game players realize they're there for the grind, whereas tournament players, especially in desperate moments, are really thinking about the bank. They're thinking about the big hit, you know?
What's the area in life you improved most during the last year?
Well, I finally, after 3 years, got my shoulder healthy, and I'm back to being, I'm very light. I'm only 174 pounds. I know you guys do kilos, but us dumb Americans do pounds for some reason. But I'm finally back to a lot of strength in my upper body, which is really fulfilling. I went 3 years without being able to do a bench press. So physically, I got my shoulder healthy. I did some stem cell injections, which somehow worked. I didn't do surgery. And but on a bigger note, I guess I really I feel like on a lot of these podcasts I end up getting super deep, and I'm trying to avoid that. But like a lot of my life's accomplishments and challenges have come from, you know, issues I dealt with as a child, and I was from a really really aggressively domestic abusive household, really really bad. And for the last, say, 20 years, I've been trying to rewire my brain to approach life like a normal person would, which is, may sound easy, but it's been the biggest challenge in my life, because I don't really have a middle gear, or maybe I'm starting to get one, but it's always been kind of, I'm either calm or I'm ready to like throw down and fight. There was no like middle kind of road for me. You know, I react to things in such a fight or flight kind of way. So I've been trying really, really hard for the last decade to get this under wraps. And in the last year, with the help of my fiance and with a lot of reading and work, I'm really making huge leaps and bounds in dealing with that. And it's extremely liberating to start to see growth in that way. And the main goal of me is, you know, I'm older, I'm 33, and we're gonna have kids soon. We're getting married in the fall, and the next year or so we'll start trying to have kids. And I want to make sure this shit ends with me. You know, I want to break the cycle. I don't want any of my baggage to be thrown off on the kids or to my wife. So it's really fulfilling to make improvements in that area.
One thing that might be connected with it, and I wanted to ask you, is what's the most physically or emotionally challenging thing you have conquered?
Well, I definitely haven't conquered this, but surviving all of that and still being a functioning member of society is something for sure. I've had a lot of big athletic goals that I hit. You know, I went to university for track and field and was very good for a Division II sprinter, and suffered a really, really bad injury that led me into poker. But being able to make a full recovery from that was a big thing. But yeah, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, that the emotional and physical abuse that I suffered as a child, and conquering that is by far the biggest accomplishment of my life. I mean, everything else seems quite small compared to that.
Jason, I'm gonna ask you 10 short questions.
Okay.
And you can, it's enough to say a word. You can elaborate if you want to, but I'm gonna hit you with 10 questions.
Sure.
From tomorrow on, you're not allowed to play poker anymore. Someone takes your money away and you have $50,000 left. What would you do?
Okay. $50,000 left. I'm not allowed to play poker anymore. So I would move somewhere where the cost of living was cheap. I would, since my income is limited, I would have to start grinding again. So I have a finance background and an MBA, so I would probably move somewhere where cost of living was cheap. I've never wanted a boss, and I would continue that way. I would rent a cheap apartment, and I would start grinding out some type of finance gig on the internet, most likely. Yeah, that trying to network around, I guess, and get some kind of finance job, something like that.
Would you stay in finance, or would you try to find another thing in the mid to long term?
In the middle term, I would definitely get out. I honestly studied finance because I didn't know what else to do in college, and a guy that I looked up to was a finance major, and I jumped in, and by the time I realized I wasn't too crazy about it, I was halfway to finishing the degree, so I just finished it. But yeah, after I got a sustainable amount of money for my family and for my expenses, I would definitely end up going down the similar path that I'm going down now, where I'm focusing on developing something for well-being, if it's physical or mental, and also like charitable stuff, working with kids overcoming tough times. So basically, like, all of my end game is always going to be the same. It's like me waking up and doing a lot of simple things that I like to do, helping kids that their backs are against the wall and they don't really have direction, and being related into health and well-being, just because I really enjoy doing physical and mental kind of improvements.
My strongest asset in poker is?
My resilience. I have no problem grinding it out no matter what. I won't stop.
Biggest, that's meant for general life. Biggest life leak I'm trying to fix?
I'm pretty bad with time management. I need to get a little bit better with improving my scheduling of my downtime.
Do you waste time with social media?
No, I actually deleted Facebook. And I don't post a lot on social media. That was something years ago whenever I was single. I was getting a lot of that short-term gratification out of social media, and I quickly I slowly started to realize what was going on. And then in the last few years, I really made a huge effort to not let them reprogram me. There's an amazing podcast with Sam Harris, and it's called The Problem with Facebook, I believe, but it also covers Google, like the way Google and Facebook manipulate you. And I highly recommend anybody to listen to that podcast. It's really, really good. It enlightened me.
My guilty pleasure.
Guilty pleasure. Ooh. I like fried food. Like fried chicken or something is really, really good. I enjoy that. I love beer. I really, really love having a couple beers. I'm never like a guy that, even in my 20s and stuff, I wasn't a person that liked to drink 10 beers. That's never been me. But I do like a couple big, heavy stouts, which are, I guess, not the best for you.
The last time I told someone a bad beat story.
It's not as far in the past as I would like to say. I'm sure I've complained about something in the last 3 months.
I wish I would have more time for?
Ooh, that's a good one. Sleep. More time for sleep.
One thing I avoid at all costs.
Sugar, there's a few of these: sugar, vegetable oils, toxic negative people. That was like one of the biggest moves I made in my life, was just like anybody that made me feel like shit, or like had that kind of defeatist mentality of like everything was against them. Getting away from that was huge for me.
Maximum amount of money I would pay for a 5-hour lesson with LLinusLLove.
Oh, that heads up NL monster. Well, the thing is with No Limit and like with a guy like him is like, I feel like the separator, say, between like him and another like elite player is the amount of hours that he's put into studying, and also his natural aptitude for the game is probably very, very high. So I could put in those hours with probably similar things that he's used to get great. So I could do that on my own, and I can't create the aptitude that he has, no matter how many hours I worked with him. So it wouldn't be that much money, because I feel like it wouldn't be that valuable to me.
Put a number on it.
I'd pay him $4,000 for an hour, 4,000 US.
1 hour.
Yeah.
Okay. Who would you like to trade places with for a day?
Ooh, really like my life. But if it was only for a day, who would I like to trade places with? It would be really fun to trade places with some freak athlete and just feel that, you know, feel whatever that was, like run around and jump for a day or something. So it would be really fun to trade places with like Usain Bolt in his prime, or like LeBron, and just feel what it feels like to walk around at 6'8" and be able to fly through the sky and dunk a basketball. So probably, yeah, some amazing athlete.
Okay, last question, Jason. One thing people don't know about me.
Okay, one thing people don't know about me. People know a lot about me because I'm very open. It's kind of it could even be a problem sometimes how open I am socially about my life, just with myself. What do people not know about me? Here's something. Me and Ben86 play Fortnite, and we get like really competitive with it sometimes. Like we get pretty miserable and complain, and it's hilarious. It's good practice for my emotional control. I degen. People wouldn't expect me to degen in a video game. I degen in a video game sometimes with Ben86.
Who is the better player?
He's way better than me at video games. He's very, very good at video games, whereas I haven't played a video game other than that one in like over 10 years.
And one more. It's one question I kicked out, but I really want to know. What's your favorite animal?
My favorite animal? I love the big cats. I love the big cats. I like the lions and the tigers. Their big heads and how ferocious they are. That would be, yeah, the big cats would be my favorite animals.
I thought you're a dog guy, to be honest.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. If you're talking pets, for sure, I'd be a dog guy. But just in the world, I think like a big monster Siberian tiger is the coolest looking thing.
Okay, Jason. Thank you very, very much for the podcast.
Yeah, man.
It's on you. So if you want to say something to the listeners, where people can find you, if you want to put something out, it's your time.
Yeah, I don't put a lot of stuff out, but you can find me in the typical places. My Twitter handle's just my name, and I don't post a lot on Instagram, but I have one of those too. So you can check me out there sometime, or I guess you'll just see me on the interweb playing some poker tournaments here and there.
Then thank you, Jason, and thank you everyone for listening, and hear you soon.
Good. All right, man.